All right, today we're going to be going through a demo of Agentforce Revenue Management slash RCA and RCB, as well as showing some cool Agentforce features. So in this demo, we're going to be focusing both from, the internal side, looking at sales operations views and as well as actual end user views, that a billing agent or sales rep or sales engineer may have. And we're also going to be looking at some of the cool ways a customer could interact with a provider who has RCA and RCB. So this focus today is for a high tech customer that sells SaaS products. The fictitious customer is Nimbus IQ Operations. You can see we have the Nimbus IQ Sales Ops dashboard here, which we'll get into a bit later. But first, we're going to start, going through the high level process. So I'm not going to spend as much time on quoting and quote configuration just so we're able to get to billing, but I will go through the high level process. So we're going to start with this customer here, Stark Industries. So we can see we have some fields up here that are all blank. That's because this is not actually a customer yet. And we'll see as we go through the demo that, these key fields will be populated as the customer is actually quoted and billed and things like that. So we're actually going to start from an opportunity here. You can see we have Stark Industries. Again, won't spend too much time here. And from this opportunity, we're just going to create a quote. So you can click this build quote button. This just guides you a bit more into actually creating the quote, pre-populates the name and some basic information and allows to choose a starting bundle if the user pleases, but we'll just click next here. All right, so now we are on our initial order quote. I'm just going to go ahead and add a couple basic products. So I'll go to Browse Catalogs, and we'll go ahead and add the Enterprise Starter Bundle. We'll turn instant pricing on, and we can see there's a few different attributes we can adjust, but won't spend too much time there. And we'll go ahead and get that added to the quote. And then what I'll also add is the Nimbus IQ usage pack. So this is an example of a usage-based product. Again, some attributes I can adjust here, like for the region. I'll just go ahead and set this to, say, 5,000, and it's in units of 100,000 customers, and then we can add the gateway transactions as well. So adjust this up to 10 million API calls, and we'll go ahead and save and exit that. Get it added to our quote. All right. Yeah, you can see that some of our products have start and end dates, whereas our usage products are left evergreen. I'm just going to go ahead and add a quick discount across these products. All right, now that we've got the discount added, we'll let it recalculate here. And one thing interesting here too is we built a helper agent to help with deal desk. So it can often slow reps down, when they're submitting quotes to deal desk that they're not sure of. They're not sure if they'll pass or not. And so we made an agent to just accept plain text to make that process a little easier so they can kind of anticipate whether or not a quote will pass through deal desk or not. So we can pull up our agents on the right here, and we can see there's a few different agents. In practice, the rep would only have access to the agents relevant to them, but we can go ahead and select Nimbus IQ Deal Desk, and we can say Will Starks initial order pass, say quote pass deal desk as an example. We should get a nice output here. It's telling us because first it gives us, information about the quote and tells us there will likely be a stop due to the discount amount here. So pretty interesting. It gives the user, then directions back to how they may adjust the quote and things of that nature. So really helpful agent there. And yeah, I'm not, for this demo, going to go through the whole approval process. I'm going to proceed here with actually billing the customer. All right, so to kick off the billing process here on our quote, go ahead and close this. Again, not going through the whole approval process here, but going to go ahead and create the order. And so now that order has been created, we can see the different order products that align with the lines that were actually on the quote. And then we're going to go through and proceed and activate this order, which is essentially going to make it eligible for billing. And, in practice, there'd be more approval steps and likely, an operations team that would review this, but we're just going to go proceed and activate it so it can get billed. All right. And then on related here, we can see we now have billing schedules, and billing schedules are a really helpful new object, part of RCB, that are essentially going to define the amounts and frequency and schedule essentially the whole invoicing life cycle for a particular invoice line. So we can see the total amount, the pending amount, when it's supposed to start, the next billing date, so on and so forth. So a lot of helpful information gets tied in here, and this is a really core object to actually driving the rest of the billing cycle. So in practice, you'd likely have a invoice batch job that runs on a nightly basis, and calculates all billing schedules with the date of today and then generates invoices in bulk. But for the purposes of this demo, we can just go ahead and generate these invoices on a one-off. It's also a nice feature to preview the invoices if you want to as well. That gives us a nice preview before they're actually generated. And we'll go ahead and actually generate the invoices and click generate here. And then this should take just a second. And you can see we now have our invoice generated. So, and we'll come back to this invoice. This is just a very simple walkthrough of the invoice generation process. So next, what we'll do is we'll dig into a more advanced invoice. So another customer, Hooli, has a lot of invoices open already. So let's just find their most recent invoice. Go ahead and search up here for invoice 26, and we can see this has a lot of different invoice lines, different products added to it already, and we can see it's not settled yet, and we have the contact and some other information. Another agent we built here is going to help a sales ops user or a billing finance user understand invoices and the status of certain accounts, much easier. So again, we can open up the agent here, and this time we'll switch to the billing helper. And we can say something simple like explain Hooley's latest invoice. And it should give us a nice line by line description here of the status and things like that. Nice. So we can see it's nicely explained here. Again, it summarizes the lines and gives the user a very clear picture of where this specific invoice is. We can see it's broken down by advanced and arrears, and just provides a lot of billing information, from a plain English input. We can also ask it more general questions about the account, right? Like if we just wanted to understand overall what the billing status is. We'll go ahead and ask that. And we can see we then get an overview of all the different billing schedules across the different invoices. And we can see, the expected amount for the billing period, how many have been completely billed, how many are ready for invoicing, so on and so forth. So some good, helpful information there. And yeah, that just goes through the very core billing process. A bit later we'll get into a bit more downstream with credit memos and collections and payments and things of that nature. But first, we're actually going to go into the customer perspective. So going to show the view of what it might look like, say, for the Hooley CFO, as they're trying to understand their subscription with Nimbus IQ. So going to switch over there. All right, so you can now see we are on the login page of what it actually is a Salesforce Experience Cloud site. So this is a view from, again, fictitious Gavin, who we'll say is someone like the CFO of Hooley, who is logging into their portal to view financials around their subscription and potentials to make upgrades and things like that. So go ahead and log in here. And you can see we have this really detailed and intricate dashboard that gives Gavin good live insight into what his company is currently paying for. You can see this is updated, with the current account balance, estimated next bill, right? These are the numbers that we were just looking at. Active subscriptions, you can see when his renewal is up. You can see breakdowns of his charges by month. And again, this is all built on RCA, RCB data. So really gives users a powerful look into, what they have. All right. We'll go ahead and click into some of these other tabs here. Again, just more details around billing. One thing that's cool too is you can really model out the usage consumption well, which is important to SaaS customers, right? They want to know how much they're consuming on usage, and very straightforward to set up views like this for the end customer. And you can see subscriptions. They can click in and see, individual order details. They can also, and this is integrated with the live configurator, request updates from this portal. So they could say, hey, I want to update my Nimbus IQ data lake storage. They can enter quantity. Let's say, I guess 150 is fine. And we can see it comes from the same professional tier that they're using and applies a 5% discount. And what this will do is actually create a quote back in the org for the Nimbus IQ team to review and follow up on. We also have a fully baked customer service agent here. So we can ask it different questions. We can ask it different questions such as, explain my latest bill. So you can click in here, and this is fully built on Agentforce. And again, going to use all RCB data. Can ask it something like explain my latest bill. And we can see right away it pulls in all this information directly from RCB. We can also ask it things like, what can I expect in my next bill? And, just continue to prompt it. Yes, please. And again, we can just keep digging, asking questions. There's a plethora of different prompts and billing information that's a bit available right from the agent. So a lot of cool capabilities here, on the actual end customer side too, to help, Nimbus IQ upsell. It makes it easy for them to request, additional quotes. These are tailored recommendations. They can request renewals, and also just gives the end customer, in this case, Hooli, a really clear idea of what they're paying for and a really easy way to manage all their billing related details in real time. So with that being said, I'm going to go back now into another feature here too, right, is that the agent can help customers log disputes. So we could go ahead and say, my API compute charge looks much too high. Let's say it just explains some details, but we can say it's still too high. Would like to log a dispute. And now it's asking about if I want to include any specific details, and I can just say something generic like overcharged for credit consumption. And it should go ahead and log the dispute, and just then asking us if there's anything else it can help us with. And now we can go back internally to show some of what that dispute looks like. All right, so as we know, a dispute was just logged on the back end. So now what we can also do, coming back in internally, right, as a Nimbus IQ sales ops analyst or agent, we can leverage the billing helper to do things like finding any open disputes rather than having to click through and go through list and things like that. So I can just say, show me open disputes. And we can see right away it pulls up the dispute from Hooli. It tells us the invoice number. So we can honestly just go right to the invoice. And from here, we could, say the dispute was legitimate and has been reviewed. We can then issue a credit memo directly. So we can see they were double charged here. So we could issue them a credit amount right from the invoice to the invoice line for $75 for crediting that back. You can see the credit memo was created and posted. So then that settles that. So next we will go into the collections flow. So kind of the other half here, right? If end customers haven't paid, invoices and follow-up is needed. So we will go over to that. All right, so last few items here, we're going to go into collections. So when customers haven't paid on time, it's very straightforward to automate what's called a collection plan, which essentially is a list of activities and automated, reminders and things of that nature related to overdue or delinquent account that you can have auto created. So I'll go over to this collections plan tab as an example and click into one just briefly here. And you can see we get a ton of different details here from within the collection plan. We can see this is 87 days past due. There's a $69,000 due amount. We can see different activities here on the collection plan that occurred over time. So we can see there was a promise made to pay for a value of $69,916, which again then can trigger additional follow-up items. We can send different dunning reminder emails. We can email directly from within the action launcher. There's a bunch of different pre-configured actions here that we're able to initiate, sending payment links directly, capturing different interaction, things of that nature. And you can then create individual collection plan items to further drill down related to specific invoices if they have multiple invoices that are overdue. So provides a really nice interface here to manage collection activities. And like I said, all these different types of emails and follow-ups are really easy to automate via flow now. So you can introduce pretty complex logic. All right, so last couple thing here is, and also there is a agentic component of this too that we can leverage. So if I go into the agent here, again, can go in the billing helper, trying to demonstrate how we can use a lot of that billing data and ask something more in plain English. And we can ask here, and it will show us a summary of the different collection items like we had just saw, and give us some advice there on which ones to chase. All right, so last couple things here are digging into, and I've shown this a couple times throughout the demo, but this sales op dashboard. So this is a custom dashboard component, but leveraging all RCA and RCB data, and the way the data models built, it allows us to really drill in deep and get good sales ops level analytics in. So this gives sales op team members all their key data and information. They can see the renewal health of all their different accounts. We're able to calculate an aggregate health score using different data points to determine risk. We can click into any of these different accounts and see why there is a risk, any different events that have happened over time. We can click directly into the account, see what's going on there. We can also see overall weighted ARR exposure. Again, plots different events against a formula that we leverage to calculate exposure. We can see things broken down really clearly, which can be difficult in other solutions to get an overview of the total ARR, right? Especially for a SaaS company. It can be difficult to cleanly see this across all different accounts and accurately as well. We can see it broken down by tier, and again, using different reports, break down different metrics. We can see all the overdue invoices and active billing schedules and things like that. So we can see there's quite a few overdue invoices to follow up on in this demo org. We can see total overdue balance and all the billing schedules as well. We also have an agentic approach to this. So again, allowing a sales ops analyst to get information they need by just typing in questions and having the data returned directly to them. So I can say which accounts have high billing risk, and the agent's gonna read that back to me in plain English. And for example, I could also say like how much ARR is exposed in upcoming renewals. And again, able to really quickly get metrics that can either be very high level or low level. So lots of agentic capabilities there as well, and just giving sales ops that really clear and actionable view, leveraging RCB and RCA data. Thanks.